Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our next episode of CPS Live. We're going to get started in just a moment. We're just giving folks a second to get logged in and get settled here. If you have any questions for our panel during the presentation, you may enter them into the chat or the Q&A, and we'll read those off for you. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our MC, Mr. Tom Berkler.
As long as we're delaying a minute, I'm going to share that Lisa kind of tried to tell a joke before we got on the air that really didn't go over well at all.
I'm really
Uh,
glad it didn't go live.
yeah, so the so I hopefully there'll be a better turn here as we proceed. Folks, welcome to CPS Live. It's good to see you on this April day where I am in Kentucky. The weather is beautiful. There is a man mowing the lawn outside, and if this presentation doesn't go well, that may be my secondary occupation before it's over. But in an attempt to get this off on the right foot, I've got the young Tom Nichols going first. And Tom, you instructed me we need a change in vocabulary here to go along with the change in weather. We don't call it critical illness anymore. What do we call it?
We call it cancer, heart attack, and stroke protection. And the reason we do that is because everybody knows somebody who has been affected by cancer. When I go into a room of advisors and do a presentation about this, I just ask the advisors to raise their hand. If anybody knows someone, either in their family, friend, or loved one that has been affected by cancer, to raise your hand, and everybody in the room raises their hand. So this is something that affects everybody, and you're bringing a solution to the table for those that have a family history of cancer, heart attack, or stroke. But the good news is this product also covers much more than just those three ailments. They call it critical illness insurance, but I'm not real happy with the way that comes off when you start talking to your clients about that. So I prefer more to say heart attack, stroke, or cancer protection, and people are just going to be more inclined to want to have that conversation with you. I want to get started here and share my screen because a couple visual aids sometimes make it a little easier for people to see what this is all about. And these are just some highlights here. Assurity is one of the carriers. Mutual of Omaha also offers the same product. Their Mutual Advantage product. But what this does is it has two different levels. One is from $5,000 to $75,000 of benefit if you're affected. It pays right up on diagnosis. Simplified underwriting, no exam, no blood, no urine. It's just simplified answer of medical questions and the policy is issued. And then, of course, they will issue up to $500,000. Now, I don't know anybody whose expenses ever went down when they experience something like this, but more than likely they miss time off of work, there's additional testing, medical expenses, things like that. That's where this really comes into play. Now, as you can see here, heart attack, coronary artery disease, angioplasty, stroke, invasive, non-invasive cancer, kidney, renal failure, major organ transplant, Alzheimer's disease, that's very important, paralysis and coma. But I highlighted an area here that's really important because this makes people feel a little better when they know that I'm not just throwing my money at a policy that I may or may not ever use. Because if you were to die of something other than one of the covered expenses, 100% of all your premium would be returned to your family or your beneficiary as a tax-free death benefit. So think of it as taking your premium dollars, putting it in a safety deposit box. If you're ever diagnosed with one of these illnesses, it pays the benefit. But if you were to die of anything other than that, we're going to open that safety deposit box and all that money is going to go back to your family. Down here under optional riders, there's one that I want to touch on a little bit. It's called loss of independent living rider. This looks and smells a little bit like long-term care insurance. So if you've got clients who might not normally qualify for long-term care insurance, they can buy this policy, add that loss of independent living. So if you trigger 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, there's a benefit paid out for that also. So if you're looking for opportunities, how do I engage my clients and talk about this? Well, let's talk about some of your existing clients right now, because right now Assurity has a special program that they're doing that if you had a policy, life insurance, approved within the past 12 months for preferred plus risk class, then they automatically get up to $200,000 of critical illness insurance if they're approved through any one of these 15 carriers here on the side. You can see if you've had life insurance approved at preferred or better rates within the past 12 months, automatically they get critical illness insurance. Has to be one of these carriers right here. So it's simple. You complete the application, show them the policy schedule or declaration page, and a policy is issued. It's just that simple. So, and it also covers all the riders. You can load it up with all the riders you want. It's pretty much guaranteed issue. So what does it cost? Simplified, non-simplified. I just did a 40-year-old female. And the reason I did a 40-year-old female is because I have a sister-in-law personally that was recently diagnosed with cancer, and she's about 40 years old. And I thought, she didn't have critical illness. She had disability insurance, but she didn't have critical illness, but she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she's okay now. It's been a little over a year, and they were able to get it, but for only $42 a month. That $50,000 benefit, I'm sure, would have really helped her out a lot during that recovery. But this could be, one of your clients. So think of your clients that have a family history, not somebody who was already diagnosed or has already been treated, but their family history of cancer, heart attack, stroke, and have that conversation with them. Again, it's affordable. And if they were to die of anything else, they get all the money back to their family, income tax free.
Tom, do the premiums ever go up?
Now it's guarantee renewable. If they were to, it's not non-cancelable, but if they were to raise rates, they would have to file it with the state and everybody in that same class. So I have never seen rates go up on this product in the 15 years that I've been marketing it.
I'm surprised with the provision. You said if you don't have a claim under the policy and it's in force and you die, you get your premiums back.
Well, you don't, but your family does, yeah.
Well, yeah. Dying is a tough way to get money. But to me, as an insurance person, most of my life, we anticipate that the claims we pay for somebody else are going to be the premiums that people paid that didn't have a claim. So you almost wonder how the company's making money on that deal. Do you get my drift there? That's
Well, yeah,
surprising.
yeah, long-term use of money. I mean, they're, investing in corporate bonds
Yeah,
and
yeah. That's good deal. Good deal. You indicated that in what state is it where they don't even call it critical illness, they call it dread disease?
in New York, it's called dreaded disease. I know.
In New
Hey, they
York,
don't
we
sell, I
have
don't know
more
if they sell a lot. I don't know if they sell a lot of this in New York, but that's why I'm saying, cancer, heart attack, and stroke is a little easier to relate to.
I agree with you because there's a tendency to put the best face on everything. And if you say critical illness, people go, well, look, I might get sick, but I'm not going to be critically ill. But you're right. The partial description or list of diseases there kind of tends to bring it home a little bit. So, Tom, I
And
always like,
people that are looking at Medicare, even, see, we're issuing all the way up to age 70. And this is a lifetime policy. It never runs out. I mean, it
yeah,
ends the day you die. So we're issuing all the way up to age 70. So even if you're out there talking to clients that are on Medicare, they're still eligible for coverage, at age 65. This is a great opportunity, especially when you talk about advanced Alzheimer's disease, loss of independent living, being able to secure that kind of coverage.
yeah. Tom, as always, a lot of people aren't familiar with this policy, but if an agent has somebody interested, you're more than glad to get on the phone and take part as far as filling in the details. So,
Absolutely. We can run the
um,
quotes for you and get on a conference call. I'm happy to help.
yeah, I appreciate you bringing your sister-in-law in. When you said a 40-year-old female, most of us, knowing you, thought it was going to be your daughter you were talking about first there. So, don't you have a 40-year? I mean, you're old, is what I'm trying to get at here.
Easy, Tiger.
Jeez.
Uh, Rob Reedy was over there. As long as we were talking critical illness, he was feeling pretty good. But as soon as you translated it into some of those dread diseases, I saw this look of worry Is there a diagnosis here we don't know about, Rob, before you get into your presentation today?
Is there a diagnosis that you don't know about?
Rob, you and I were talking in the green room before we went
Yeah.
on the air here about it seems there's so much advertisement of life settlements on television now,
Mhm.
most of them from people that we deal with.
Right.
And we've spent our whole lives with the idea of people letting policies lapse or surrendering policies, not recognizing that's really a form of primary life settlement. You're selling it back to the carrier for the cash surrender value,
Right.
when in fact, under certain circumstances, you may be able to give it to a third party buyer for more than you'd get if you surrendered the policy. So if you describe a little what we do with that, especially maybe emphasizing the characteristics of a situation that might
Yeah.
suggest a plausible settlement.
Yeah, you're right. I think now is a really good time to be in the settlement market, settlement arena. As you mentioned, there are companies out there like Abacus and Coventry advertising on the TV every single day, letting seniors know that they might have an asset that they can unlock and utilize cash value for whatever needs they might have. It could be to fund their retirement or help fund it. They might have the need to pay for long-term care expenses. But again, it's just unlocking a hidden asset that they didn't know had a real value to it. We've probably been in the space 15, 20 years. We've heard a lot of stories from advisors, hundreds of advisors about bad experiences. And I think what sets us apart is we're able to alleviate some of those. So the first one is many advisors or clients will go directly to one or two funding sources. And we've got access to more than 20. And when you go to just one, you really do not know if you're getting the best offer for your life insurance policy. You're just kind of taking that source's word for it. But what we're going to do is shop it out to more than 20 sources and provide transparency. So you'll be able to see what funding sources are offering what for your specific policy. And then obviously we can use those offers to negotiate back and forth to get the best possible offer in the end. So again, I think it's a great time to be in the marketplace. When it comes to the ideal client, you're looking for clients at least 70 years of age. And if they're 70, they've got to have some health issues. So you got a healthy 70-year-old, it's going to be challenging to get a settlement offer. It can be done, but it might be very challenging. So older than 70, $100,000 of life insurance death benefit or more. Ideal products would be guaranteed universal life because they have really no surrender value, like you mentioned earlier, Tom. Convertible term, those are also good opportunities. Those would be the ones I would look for. So 70 and older, convertible term, permanent life insurance that has little to no cash surrender value. And what I'll do is I'll share a recent success story that we had.
Yeah, go ahead.
This was a male, 90 years old, in good health for age 90. He had a $572,000 death benefit with zero cash value. And the premium that he was going to need to pay to keep that policy in force was $48,000 a year. Didn't need the policy anymore. Didn't have $48,000 a year to keep funding this contract for the next 5-7 years while he's living. So we took that out to the market, shopped it against all of these funding providers, and we're able to get that client $176,000 today. And one thing that we did is we did all the work. We did all the client presentations, client meetings, applications, closing documents for the referring agent. And that agent literally just gave us a warm handoff to this client, introduction, made $14,300. So that was kind of a win-win for everybody. The client didn't need this $572,000 death benefit, had no cash value, couldn't pay the $48,000 premium, ended up with $176,000 today. And the agent made $14,000. So nice success story.
One of the things that was surprising to me back when I was cutting my teeth in this life settlement area, Rob, is we tend to think, well, if I surrendered it, the policy isn't worth anything, so it probably isn't worth anything in itself. The opposite's true. Am I incorrect that the people that buy these policies don't want to tie up a lot of their money in a purchase price that involves buying out cash surrender value? They just
Right.
as soon have a clean policy. And the other thing to emphasize here too is the guidelines here as far as what a normal prospect what applies to a normal prospect are good, but it all depends really on life expectancy. So
Right.
I guess we're encouraging, look, if you've got a policy, bring it to us. We can tell you quickly, because in fact, if you're much younger than 70 and have some serious medical issues, that could dramatically alter the feasibility of a life settlement. Of
Absolutely.
course, of course, if you've got a dread disease, as they like to say in New York,
Then we can definitely find a settlement.
it, it might be wise to keep the policy yourself. So I'm going to take the last couple minutes here. Going to share the screen. We all, if you are like most people, you filed your taxes last week. If you're like me, you basically oh, these Zoom hasn't coordinated how I can do this right and bring you in with nothing on the screen. So I've tipped my hand a little bit there. It's easier to get your clients focusing on taxes after April the 15th, once they've taken care of what they owe that year. If you're like me, you always file an extension, not because I'm so physically or rather financially sophisticated that I have all sorts of documents. I'm just plain lazy. I don't get around to it, which is stupid because usually the government owes me a little money back. So they're just getting to use my money for a little longer. But I got some post April 15th marketing initiatives I'd like to push between now and the end of the year. And basically, they cover three markets. The first is your high net worth clients, which is already up there. The cat's out of the bag on that one. But what I like to ask high net worth clients, and we never know a lot of times how much a client's worth. When you're talking about estate taxes, you're talking about net worth, because net worth and taxable estate are usually pretty close. Uh, and what I like to say to high net worth people, are you aware that on January 1, your estate taxes could go up as much as $3 million? And the reason for this is simply because the biggest tax advantage that high net worth people have is something called a lifetime exemption. And right now, every taxpayer, if they haven't used it during their life, can protect their first $14 million in net worth. If you're married and you plan correctly, you can protect 28 million, rounding my numbers there a little bit. January 1, that's going to drop by 50%. Even if you're a single taxpayer and you can get $7 million extra out of your estate before January 1, that's immediate tax savings of almost $3 million. So every high net worth client is one that you want to talk to with regard to whether they're aware that they can take advantage of a very generous provision in the law up until January 1, but they've got to act before then. So that's one area, high net worth clients. The other, business owning clients. The Supreme Court recently came down with a case, Connolly versus the United States. In fact, and basically what Connolly versus the United States said is, if you have business owned life insurance, the proceeds have to be included in the fair market value of the business. This dramatically affects some buy sell agreements. In fact, and Rob and I have kicked this around a lot, it really doesn't affect that many of them, but you ought to be checking every client that you have who has a business to see if they're affected by Connolly versus the United States. If they aren't affected, the agreement that they have probably needs review anyway, which oftentimes results in a sale of more life insurance, either because they haven't funded it previously, or the purchase price that they would be happy with has gone up since they passed the agreement and bought the initial insurance, and now they want more. Or even worse, you may uncover businesses that don't have an agreement at all. And again, Rob and I like to go into business people and say, if you don't have a buy sell agreement and you've got other owners, you wake up every morning not knowing who you're going to be in business with, because you have no idea who they're going to leave their portion of the business to. So Connolly versus the United States has laid the groundwork for you to have an excuse to go in and review every business owning client or prospect. That's the second market. Third one applies to everybody, and that's clients on whom others depend. And I think that what we're addressing here is the simplest but most undersold marketplace probably in the United States, and that's income replacement. And the question you've got to ask yourself is, does your client adequately protect their most valuable asset? And I like to ask clients that, what's your most valuable asset? They say, well, my car or my business or whatever. Wrong answer. Their most valuable asset is their ability to convert their talent and labor into wealth. When someone on whom others depend dies prematurely, that asset is lost for the remainder of their working years. I would suggest, if you aren't familiar with it, getting familiar with a musical called Titanic. If you're interested in Titanic, anyway, I think you'll find the musical to be very interesting. But there's one scene down in steerage where all of the Irish immigrants are kind of getting into a song, and it begins with the ladies who talk about what their hopes and dreams for America are. And of course, it slowly goes over into the men and it ends with a chorus. You know how these musicals go. But there's a line in there where they all come together with regard to what their hopes are and their dreams are for a new life in America. And they say, there's a place where industry and talent can be sold. And that's what we're talking about in the income replacement department. Now you say, well, this is all good, Tom, but what are you going to do to help me? Um, what I've done is reduce these three marketing areas to 3 sheets of paper, and I call it 3 sheets to the wind, which I think is clever. All right. Send me emails later if you go with that. But basically, what we got is a document that you as an advisor can take, or you as an affiliate can give to advisors, where in one page for each of these three markets are the rudimentary elements of what this market is and why your client needs to address them. Um, and we can get that to you so that basically you can take these three market initiatives as you go forward through the remainder of the year and make it profitable. But that's where we are. It's there. The final snazzy version isn't quite done yet. Lisa's helping me with that. But if you're in urgent need of it, I'll give you the ugly one. But just contact me at that number or at that email address and we can get it to you. So, Lisa, we got any questions and answers in the box?
We are clear on questions, but I did post all your contact information in the chat in case any of our attendees would like to reach out on any of the topics we discussed today.
Tom or Rob, any final remarks before we get off the air here?
One thing I would like to add real quick, when you talked about the business owner clients in their buy sell, and the fact that we also offer disability buy sell coverage, because the likelihood of a partnership or multiple
Yeah.
partners increases that one of them is going to get sick or hurt and not
Yeah.
be a managing partner, and what's going to happen to their share of the business. So keep that in mind too when you're reviewing those buy sell agreements.
Tom, that's a question I was going to run by you because I'd given them some thought as I was working on this week. And of course, the Supreme Court decision says if we have life insurance as a business to buy out an owner and the owner dies, we've got to add that life insurance to the value of the business. So it in effect increases the estate tax of the deceased owner. I've been wondering if the business owns a disability policy. I'm wondering if the right to disability benefits uh, increase the business as well. That's just something to think about. You don't have to give an answer there. So, you know, is
Well,
is
I know, I don't know if that, Connolly versus United States was affected by disability insurance. I always thought if it was an entity purchase, it
yeah,
would be
it is. But
taxable as opposed to a cross purchase.
I'm just looking out for you. You know, Rob. Any
Okay.
last comments, Rob, before we get out of here?
Yeah, if you've got clients with old life insurance they don't want, they don't need, or they can't afford, give us a call. Let's see if we can turn that policy into cash that your clients can use today.
All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you for your business. And remember what we like to say around here, a bad day at CPS is better than a good day anywhere else. So, Lisa, take us out of here.
All right. Thanks for joining us today, folks. Keep on the lookout for our next invite. Have a good day.
Thank you.